today. We have some awesome people here on the panel to answer all of your internship questions. So I'm going to go down the list and I'm going to say everybody's name. And when I say that internship panel member's name, they're going to speak for a minute about who they are. So we're going to start with Emily Beach.
Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted. Hi, my name is Emily Beach. I'm a senior at Drury University. I am currently in the application process of internship, so I'm applying for January of 2021. And yeah, that's my spiel about me. I'm looking for them here in the region.
Perfect. Let's go on to Jacob Schneider.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jacob. I'm a senior at UMKC, and I have solidified my internship, and it's supposed to, fingers crossed, start June 1st at Truman Med.
Awesome. And then we have Alex Puser.
Hi, so I'm Alex Puser. I am a music therapist at Tri-County Mental Health Services in Kansas City. So I am not so recently removed from internship.
Perfect. We have Dr. Natalie Wildarczyk.
Hi, everybody. I am here representing CBMT today.
Awesome. And then I am also on the panel, and I will be talking about what it's been like to have interns with me. So I am a newer professional, and I'm not a clinical director, but I do help with clinical supervision. So I help with the internship process, and then I have interns and work with them through their internship. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Robertson now. Dr. Robertson is our SOB advisor for the Midwest region, and she is going to be our moderator today.
All right, welcome everybody. So what we are going to do, I believe we are still going to have everybody post their questions in the chat, correct, Jordan? Okay. And then as you post, we will, do you want me to ask the question out loud, Jordan? Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask it, and then if we need to do follow-up, I can unmute the person that asked it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead. Anybody that has a question for the panel, please post it in the chat. Okay, so our first question, this is for everybody. So Kara wants to know, how do you find internship? How do you find an internship that works with a very specific client population? For example, if you're interested in trauma care. And this is for anybody.
Yeah, so the best way to find an internship is with a very specific population is to go into all of these resources that we have and search. So one thing that you can do is you can go on the AMTA website and you can search internship sites. You can go to the internship fairs at all of these conferences that we have, which now that a lot of them are online, makes it a lot more accessible. You can also research things on Music Therapists Unite. So don't necessarily post, but research maybe what you're looking for and find a music therapist that's talking about it on there, and then connect with them because they may be able to open some more doors for you.
Okay, and this is for everybody on the panel. This is, what is the hardest part about applying to an internship or about the application process?
Currently going through it right now, I would say part of the hard part is like time management if you're doing multiple applications at once. Because you want to kind of address it like it's homework. I think also I'm getting a little bit of feedback. There we go. I don't want you guys to hear me twice, but managing that and working on it has been hard. I think one other hard is trying to summarize like all these years of learning and knowledge that I've gained into questions. that I'm not usually used to answering, like what are your best qualities or like strengths or weaknesses. Those have been hard. And I also think summarizing like your overall philosophy of music therapy is something that I've seen multiple times, and it's something that I've learned so much about, but summarizing it has been hard for me. So I think those have been the hardest things I've found filling out application processes right now. I don't know what everybody else was facing. I know Jacob recently started and finished those.
Yeah, does anybody else want to speak to that question?
I think for me, it was just keeping everything super organized. So knowing like, I mean, I'm sure you remember Dr. Robertson getting emails from me during the summer saying like, hey, this is when I'm going to apply. So keeping that timeline up and like knowing all of your dates and having maybe even a separate calendar for all of that. So you have everything in one place.
Okay, this is also to everybody. So how would you go about finding internships that may not be on the national roster?
So to start, Livia posted in our chat about what a lot of regions are doing right now, including the Western region, is they're doing internship spotlights. So they're spotlighting different internships in their region. So it's really important. Social media is a really good tool right now. Go and follow all of the regions, number one, because you may not necessarily want to do an internship in your region. And then look for those posts from those student boards, because they're doing the research for you a lot of the time, so that they're highlighting all of these non-national roster ones.
And I'll kind of tap into that too, is that even our region and our social media, I've been running the hashtag Well Educated Wednesday, where it was showing those national roster ones specifically. But what I was doing is I was reaching out to those internship supervisors and directors and saying like, okay, like, can you give me more on this if, you know, the website's been outdated, or can you give me like a quote from a current intern? And you'll see that on the internship or on the social media post. They're pretty lengthy, but all the information is there too.
I would also like tag along on that and say get involved with like things like this or student organizations that are regional or national. That's how I've gotten to know a lot of the ones that are outside of the national roster, because I'm hearing what other students are doing and participating in as I get to know them. And the more that I get to know people from other schools, the more I'm hearing about their opportunities that are wider ranges that are not on the roster.
Okay, this one is for everyone. So this is for current supervisors or directors. What has the process of figuring out how to proceed with continuing an internship or onboarding an intern during continued restrictions with COVID-19?
So I'll talk a little bit about that. We have an intern class coming in that starts in July. And so we have been at my facility talking about this a lot. Number one, the most important thing is if you are waiting for your internship right now and it's starting in these next couple of months, don't be afraid to reach out to your director and ask them what their plan is, because all directors and all supervisors are working on plans to make sure that it works, whether you start at the time you're supposed to start via telehealth or if your internship is going to be delayed.
Okay, this is to everyone. What are tips for new interns with work-life balance to prevent burnout? Good question.
I think my supervisor did a really good job during internship of making sure that when 5 o'clock rolled around that we weren't there. Carol might have stayed after 5 to get other work done, but she made it very clear to myself and my co-intern that once 5 o'clock was there that we were supposed to be out of the door. And like even there were some days that maybe we ended before 5, and that was perfectly fine for her. So that is something that she did a really good job of just communicating to us, that like our worth does not really depend on the amount of time that we're spending in that site, which was really helpful.
Okay, Jacob, how did you go about preparing for your interview?
So, I mean, I could give you the obvious answer is like prepare musically. And that was probably the easiest portion for me because we are all performers, so we're so used to preparing musically. The hard thing for me is kind of what Emily touched on earlier, is like your philosophy and knowing what you've been taught and kind of taking that as your own, and then going into the interview and not like regurgitating it, but like truly making it your own philosophy and just saying that. And that was probably the hardest thing for me, and that's mainly what I had to prepare on the most, is that like, okay, what is my foundational concepts and how am I really going to work in this population with those?
Okay, the next question is for Alex. What advice do you have for current interns looking for jobs in the region?
So when I was going about this process, I really took the time to think about what I could afford, and like, as someone who doesn't have to provide for themselves or didn't have to provide for themselves at that time, like what my family was going to be willing to contribute to. And so I kind of ranked states based on like cost of living, and then like how far I was willing to move for that 6-month period, especially if it was going to be an unpaid internship. But then like regionally, really getting to know the music therapists who work here. There are a lot of music therapists out there who want to start internships and maybe want to start like a university affiliated internship, and just don't have one. So just knowing how to make those connections, and knowing how to ask, like, hey, would you be willing to have an intern? Because I know that there are plenty in Kansas City who would be willing to do that.
Okay, this is to everyone. What's the difference between a national roster internship site and an AMTA accredited internship site?
So my internship was a university affiliated internship. The specific differences, I wouldn't like know them off the top of my head. I know that like the largest difference with my internship, which was at Cornerstones of Care, was that it wasn't national. So the pool of individuals that Shark Carroll had to choose from when she was doing intern interviews was smaller. But also just some of those requirements, any of like the additional assignments that national roster interns have, we did not follow all of them. Now Shark Herald does follow pretty close to everything that national roster says to do, but there's definitely room for leniency within the university affiliated. And then I know for her as a supervisor, the reason that this internship was created to work with the universities locally was because she knew at the time what areas those students needed to work on and how she could best address that based on what she knew about the programs. So at times I think that maybe you get a more individualized experience by going the university affiliated route.
Okay. Okay, again for everybody, would you recommend looking at internships that have a variety of different populations to work with? Or if you have a specific population that you'd like to work with, should you only go for internships in that population?
I think that's a great question, and there are multiple answers depending on what you want. So there are some people that do want to expand their horizons, and you're still in school when you're an intern, so choosing the route of going to a internship that has multiple. Did I cut out for a minute? No, okay, my screen just froze, sorry. That has multiple different populations to work with, but could be good, especially like if you don't know what your philosophy of music therapy is and you don't know necessarily that you want to specialize in something, but there's nothing wrong with going into a specialized internship. If you know what, I'm passionate about hospice and I want to be a hospice music therapist, do a hospice internship.